The Police Services Board looks to shed taxi responsibilities. The Federal Aboriginal Affairs Minister touts a new government plan. And Thunder Bay gears up to host another major baseball championship. Good evening and thank you for being with us. The Police Services Board has voted to hand control over taxis in Thunder Bay back to City Council.
The move is mostly administrative, but it's believed it will have a positive impact on those who use the service. The police service has also released its use of force statistics from last year. Dennis Ward has the details.
Thunder Bay Police feel the authority to regulate and govern taxis and limousines is a better fit for city administration. Deputy Chief Andy Hay says when the bylaw was transferred to police in the mid-90s, it was a time of bootlegging and illegal licenses.
That was in a different era. You know, we don't have the bootlegger problems and everything else that used to happen. It's much more regulated. It's much more, our cities evolved, our crime rates, our crime structures evolved, and we don't see a need for Thunder Bay Police to be involved in the regulation of the taxis right now.
Police Services Board member Brian McKinnon sat on the committee studying the current model. He believes it is not part of the police's core service, nor a good use of their time. The committee also looked at the cost of cabs and their availability. The cab companies were non-committal to any changes, but it is believed those issues can be addressed if the city decides to take on the responsibility. McKinnon anticipates council will vote in favor of taking back responsibility for taxis, but he says users of the service shouldn't expect any changes overnight.
Well, I'm going to say within 6 months. I'm hoping that we'll see something substantive, in either in form of more cabs on the road, more licenses, maybe, I don't know that. But those kinds of things will start probably by either late spring or early fall.
The police board also received the annual use of force statistics. The 110 incidents is a slight increase over 2012, but the deputy chief says the numbers depend on how many officers were involved in a given incident. He says the numbers aren't concerning.
If it was an issue of firearms being discharged, we'd be very concerned. There's always dangers out there for our officers, and they're very cognizant of the fact that there are weapons out there. We do have a high crime rate. So an officer having a handgun drawn is reported, but that doesn't mean that when it's drawn that it's pointed at anybody. It's more in the ready position.
Every time a firearm was discharged in the past year, it was to take down a deer or a bear. Dennis Ward, TBT News.
On the heels of the federal government's release of its 2014 budget, the Minister of Aboriginal Affairs was in Thunder Bay today to meet with the Chamber of Commerce. Bernard Valcourt gave a speech during the noon hour in which he touched on a number of topics, specifically focusing on the recent proposed changes to the First Nations Education Act. Courtney Rutherford reports.
Federal Minister of Aboriginal Affairs Bernard Valcourt was in Thunder Bay to discuss the newly released 2014 federal budget and to promote the benefits of proposed changes to the First Nations Education Act.
Budget has confirmed the way forward agreed to with the Assembly of First Nations to develop a statute, a piece of legislation that will create a legislative framework that will give First Nations control of education on their reserve. So I think that this will prove transformational, and I think Canada will benefit from this greatly.
Valcourt says the $1.9 billion in First Nation elementary and secondary school funding will provide opportunities that will help change the outlook for many young people living on reserves. The current education system has resulted in outcomes that are drastically below the national average. Anishinaabe Nation Grand Chief Harvey Esno sat down with Valcourt today and told him that Nan communities are currently 12 years behind when it comes to building schools.
We don't have libraries, we can't attract the kind of teachers that will stay in the north, with a good benefit plan and so on, so we become, a revolving door of teacher graduates, and then we move on to bigger schools.
In his speech, Valcourt said he believes that First Nations across Canada deserve access to a school system with the structures and supports that are available for non-First Nation students. He believes that First Nations taking control of their Education Act will be good for Canadians and the future of our country. Courtney Rutherford, TBT News.
The Pikangikum First Nation has been chosen for an OPP pilot project aimed at turning the community's young people into positive role models and leaders. Project Journey was launched today in an effort to improve the fortunes of the reserve near Red Lake, which has been plagued by suicide and negative media attention in recent years. Jonathan Wilson reports.
I guess I'm really excited about seeing, the impact that it's going to have with our children, with our youth in our community. Yeah?
Pikangikum Chief Patty Peters says after years of feeling sad about living in a community with a negative label attached to it, the youth will finally have some positive media attention so they can start to turn things around.
Instead of something, negatively being portrayed, telling that, these kids are gas sniffers, these kids are suicidal, these kids are uneducated, these kids to have no future. But, that's wrong to say those kind of comments about, the community, about children and youth. Something positive should be said. These kids are great. These kids have a future. This is the future of our community.
Project Journey will involve the OPP, teachers, and the community at large, with the goal of preventing youth crime and reducing antisocial behavior by youth aged 6 to 18. OPP Superintendent Ron Van Stralen says the relationship between police and the Pikangikum youth will continue to improve, and the activities will be reflecting Aboriginal values.
They've done snowshoeing, there will be some sports activities, there will be programs within the school on leadership development. There'll be community projects where, they may be required or asked to, take on a cleaning project or, cut firewood for elders or just become, community leaders themselves and see what it takes to, help others.
Chief Peters says they've had other programs in Pikangikum over the years, but nothing of this magnitude, and he thinks the youth will embrace it.
When you start something like this, you're not going to really see immediate results, but I believe it's in the making. I believe there's going to be, a decline in solvent abuse, and children will be coming more regularly to school.
The Pikangikum option was one we'd been working on, like I said, since 2009, and one that we were the most passionate about. But there are other projects that will be on the way, I hope.
Over the next 5 years, funding for Project Journey will be provided by Public Safety Canada through the National Crime Prevention Centre and the Ontario Government through the OPP. Jonathan Wilson, TBT News.
It's one of the most well-attended sporting events Thunder Bay has ever seen, and it's coming back. Local officials are celebrating the news that came down this weekend that we've been chosen by the International Baseball Federation to host the 2017 Under-18 Baseball World Cup. Ryan Benazzo has the reaction.
The name may have changed. The sense of enthusiasm hasn't. Thunder Bay has been awarded the 2017 Under-18 Baseball World Cup, a rebranded version of the extremely successful World Junior Baseball Championships held in the city back in 2010.
Several of them are now in the major leagues that played in 2010.
Thunder Bay International Baseball Association President and City Councilor Larry Hebert can't wait to welcome some of the world's best young ball players to the city for a second time. The association had been gunning for the 2015 event, but when the International Baseball Federation awarded that to Japan over the weekend, Association Executive Director Warren Philp wasted no time expressing interest in the next available date.
Warren went right back at him and says, okay, we want 2017. Tell him to make that decision now. And he kind of said, well, do you want to go back to your board? No, we want to know today.
It was Thunder Bay's sterling track record from 2010 that spurred the Federation's quick decision.
It was one of the best organized. It made the most money for any tournament Baseball Canada has ever held from an international level. So I think they knew our track record and how hard we worked, what a great group of volunteers we have in Thunder Bay, and what great support from the fans.
50,000 fans to be precise. That's how many people passed through the gates at Port Arthur Stadium back in 2010. For our city's mayor, the announcement is simply another feather in Thunder Bay's cap.
We've just proven ourselves that we're a world-class, city. Attracting world-class events. If you look at 2016, we have the police fire games, and We're attracting a AHL franchise. Just can't say enough about this city and what it's attracting now.
Last time it was about a $6.2 million economic benefit to the city. We expect it to be more this time. Because of the success last time, and it was really shown around the world on the internet, that way more people will actually come.
Ryan Bonazzo, TBT News.
Premier Kathleen Wynne says her upcoming budget will include a new revenue stream to pay for expanded public transit. Wynne's comment came as the Ontario legislature resumed sitting today following its 9-week-long Christmas break. And they came despite a warning from NDP leader Andrew Horwath that her party won't support any new taxes or tolls that hit the middle class. PC leader Tim Hudak has made it clear his party won't support the minority government and says it's unfortunate Wynne sees taxpayers as revenue tools. The Premier says she wants to govern but isn't afraid of a spring vote.
Visitors to the Thunder Bay District Health Unit office tomorrow will be faced with an information picket. Nurses at the health unit are upset about recent reductions to frontline public health nursing staff, along with a breakdown in contract negotiations. The nurses have been working without a contract for more than a year now. That picket will be held tomorrow from 11:30 to 1:30.
The Thunder Bay Shelter House's street outreach plan looks to be in full flight for this winter season at least. The 4-month SOS pilot program has received the city funding that shelter officials were looking for, and the program is being utilized heavily only a month and a half in. Shelter staff had asked for $35,000 in November when they presented to City Council, and the District Social Services Board stated they would match that amount.
We actually asked City Council to contribute $35,000 towards the pilot project, and since then the DSAB has matched that $35,000, so we're really grateful for that support. And recently at the budget consultations and debate, the Council approved the $35,000 for this year.
The program helps transport people found on the street with substance abuse problems and supplies them with shelter services and winter clothing. So far, the program is being used exceptionally well.
We knew there was a need out there, which was why we proposed the program to begin with, but it exceeded our expectations, and we've actually transported 304 people up to February the 7th, which is when we last sort of ran the numbers. And the calls that we're getting are coming from all across the city.
The hope is that this will become a year-round program rather than just a cold weather plan.
Aboriginal community members got a closer look today at job opportunities in the mining sector. The Begin Your Journey Here Mining and Job Gathering Forum is designed to inform interested First Nations workers on the range of jobs available and how to prepare themselves to enter the mining industry. About 150 people were in attendance at this, the first of a 2-day event. They had access to keynote speakers from the industry, and in addition, attendees had a chance to learn what it takes to start their own business. Organizers say it's an important stop for many who are looking at the mining industry for a career.
We'd like to think in terms of the future, this is going to be a big stop. And the big stop, of course, is what are they going to do? And it's all about getting people fired up to do something, get people to be a part of the economy and to take advantage of the development that's happening within the area.
It allows you time. A lot of the mining activity, it's not slated to start until perhaps 2015, 17, that type of thing. So you do have time to get your ducks in a row to look at, okay, what education do I have? Do I need any further education? Do I need any training? And if so, where can I get that?
Attendees also got a chance to hear from mining companies and learn about the current and future demands in the industry, as well as how they can best fill those needs.
Students and staff members at Gorham and Ware Community School acted like angels this past Valentine's Day. They were acting as angels to help one of their fellow students who lives with a condition known as Angelman syndrome. Rochelle El-Soufi has more.
Angelman syndrome is a complex genetic disorder that primarily affects the nervous system. Delayed development, intellectual disability, severe speech impairment, recurrent seizures, and problems with movement and balance are just some of the main features of this condition. Gorham and Ware student Camden Truwin suffers from Angelman syndrome. His mother, Leah Portfors, wants to draw attention to this rare disorder. She says because her son is nonverbal, the relationships in her community have changed.
And we get that look sometimes because he's nonverbal and he makes these squeaking noises, but he's just trying to express himself, right? And he gets frustrated and sometimes he'll bang his head on a wall because he's trying to express himself.
Although Port Forest receives this reaction from part of the community, at this school, it's a different story. At Gorham and Ware, the students and staff focus on inclusivity, including all students regardless of their abilities and what they can do to support the needs of all students. The school received an iPad for Camden with a special communication app that gives a voice to people who can't speak.
So there's a program called Prolo Quo to Go, and so we purchased that program for his iPad, and what it does is we program it so that it can communicate for Camden. So essentially what he does is he touches it to talk.
I feel tired today. That has been a huge benefit to us to be able to have that. He's just starting to use that, so it's very, very basic. He just touches the buttons and gets to say very simple phrases like, I feel today, but it's a start for us.
Angelman syndrome occurs 1 in every 15,000 live births. In the city of Thunder Bay, there are only 2 children who have Angelman syndrome. Through the carnation sale this Valentine's Day, the students and staff here were able to raise roughly around $500. This will go towards buying Camden a Prolo Quo to Go that he can use at home on his tablet. The rest of the funds will go towards the Angel Man Foundation. Rochelle Sufi, TBT News.